I'm Doug Wilkerson, and I just want to say thanks and trying to get everybody in their places. We've got quite a crew with us tonight, and a special guest, Paul. We're really glad to have him. Of course, we're glad to have everyone, and we're glad to have you. And I want to go through a breathing exercise right here, if that'll be all right with everyone. And is that good? Is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have a breathing exercise. So I'd like for everybody just to breathe in twice. Remember how to do that? Breathe in, and then again, and then exhale slowly. Breathe in again, and exhale slowly. One more time, breathe in again, and exhale slowly. And now I'd like you to say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Forgive me.
Forgive me.
I love you.
I love
I
you.
love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Breathe in again, and exhale slowly. And then say, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Forgive me.
Forgive me.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then take a deep breath. And I'm going to turn this over to Zach.
All right, welcome everybody to Saturday Night Live. We're glad you're here, and we get a little bit of a late start, and sorry about that, but we're glad you're here tonight, and we're going to have a good meeting. Before I forget, I just want to let everybody know that the next 2 weeks we're not going to be live. We're going to be airing a past meeting, so we will have an SNL broadcast, but it will be a repeat meeting. It won't be a live meeting, but please, you're welcome to join us, and we hope to see you there. But we have a bunch of people out, and so we're just going to take a couple weeks off. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it tonight. So please welcome Macy. She's going to read the 12 steps for us. So here's Macy.
Step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. We made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being that is the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7. We humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them. Step 9. We made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry His message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right. Thank you, Macy. Appreciate that. You did a good job.
Thank you, Macy.
And we are going to do the steps now, and I'm going to do the step. And we are going to cover perseverance tonight. We're working on step 10. So I'm going to read the step here real quick. So step 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And, I chose perseverance. And I think, we're talking about perseverance tonight. And I think we all in recovery can have something to say about that. We've all had to persevere when we're trying to heal past traumas and when we're trying to get better. And I'm going to start with a question tonight. So how do I see my recovery as a war against addiction and as a fight for my soul? And one of my favorite motivational speakers is Tony Robbins, and he tells a story about a Spanish general, and they were trying to take this land in history, and he had 600 men, and I think there's 11 ships, and they sailed to a part of Spain and they were looking for this treasure, and he wanted to make it very clear to his men that failure was not an option. And so as soon as they got to land, he burned the boats. And when I was thinking about this week, I was thinking about that a lot. They didn't know what was there to expect. They didn't know if they were going to come in contact with people that wanted to kill them, or there would be tribes there, or it didn't really matter what they faced when they got there. There was no retreat because there was no boats to retreat in. There was nothing. They had to persevere, and they had to win. And I think sometimes in recovery, there are people with the attitude that no matter what, my recovery is the most important thing. And then there are some folks that have a lot of reservations. And one of the first things I learned in recovery was if you have a reservation, you will check in. And some people don't like it when I say that, but that's the truth. I knew a guy one time that said, he had like 5, 6, 7 years sober, and he said, I can face anything except if my parents die. I don't know if I could face that sober. And what do you think happened? Life happened and gave him the opportunity to find out. And that's a reservation that he didn't know he made. He made a reservation to relapse, and sure enough, he did. And we have to be careful of those things, making those reservations, and we don't really know. I know people that struggle financially, and they may be living with somebody who is using, and I've known folks that have decided to be homeless rather than live in a house that was had a bunch of drugs in the house, because they couldn't be sober in the house, and so they literally chose homelessness. And one thing I encourage is that your recovery has to be more important than anything else. Because if it is a do or die thing. If you really if you boil it all down, not to be heavy tonight or start off heavy tonight, but the truth is that in my addictions, I was dying. Addiction is really slow suicide, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be drug addiction. Substances that we put in our body are slowly killing us. We don't actively think that we're committing suicide, but the truth is we're slowly killing ourselves. But you can have an addiction to anger, like I had for a very, very long time, and it put me, my anger put me in dangerous situations more than drugs ever did. because I did not like authority, and I did not listen. And my anger endangered my life. So it's not just about drugs and alcohol. It can, no matter what your addiction is, if your addiction is pornography, and it costs you your relationship or your marriage, and your wife throws you out and you're homeless, or then you lose your job, and these things have a cascading effect, and then depression, and then you can just it just kind of piles on, and then what comes with depression, but sometimes suicide comes with depression, so the truth is that whenever I was out running and using and living that life, I was all about it. And sometimes we come into recovery half-hearted, and I know when I did that, I didn't get very far. But when it was recovery or nothing, when it was do or die, then things changed. And so I want to encourage people out there, if you're wanting something different, burn your boats. Don't leave anything behind you. Don't leave a safety net to go back to that old life. And you know what I mean, because we know how to do it, right? And sometimes we're just trying recovery on, and that's just not going to work. And another question here is,
Hey, Zach, before
Yeah.
you go on to your next question, because you brought up several things, and one of the things that you said was, well, I want to start with the last one first. How about that?
okay.
And that is about half-heartedness. And I'm thinking that you can probably share with us why a person would be half-hearted, because it runs parallel with this perseverance idea. Why would a person be half-hearted?
I think sometimes people get recovery because people want them to get sober and they're not really ready. And that might be an example of half-hearted. Maybe your wife or your mother or dad or your kids want you to do it, but you're not really ready. And I wish that we could be ready for those reasons, but it's just not reality for everybody. And it doesn't mean you're a rotten individual. It just means you're not ready. And I remember when there's been things in my life that I wish I could overcome, and I thought, well, what's wrong with me? I'm a piece of crap because I can't overcome these things for my kids. They ought to be worth it. All that stuff that we tell ourselves. And the truth is that's not really even the issue. It's just that you're just not ready, and you can't do recovery for somebody else. And so that might be a half-hearted thing. Doing it for somebody else and not yourself. Now I want to say this because this sounds a little harder than I usually am, because I believe in harm reduction completely. I mean, if you're getting high every day, 4 times a day, and yesterday you got high 3 times, that counts. You didn't get high that 4th time, and that counts. Okay, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm being, because I totally believe in harm reduction. But I also know what happens when you're not really ready, and you're kind of and it's part of the process. It's like, I want recovery right now, but I don't want it in 10 minutes, or I want it today, but I don't want it tomorrow, or I made it to a meeting at 7 o'clock, but I'm getting high at 10. But you still went to a meeting from 7 to 9, and that's great. You made a healthy choice, and you didn't null and void it because you got high at 10. It counts. It counts. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not saying don't do the healthy thing, because I've told my story, the healthy thing will push out the bad, you know. I think that's all part of recovery, you know, but you can't do it for somebody else, you know. And some of these, like, part of one of these questions is that, did you want to say anything else about that, Doug, or is that enough on the half-heartedness part?
Well, no, I'd like to explore a couple other things in that, if you don't mind.
Okay.
But you kind of touched on it. But it's going to tie in some of my other thoughts that you had earlier in what you were saying. And that is that there's a reason why, for a lot of folks, they are addicted to substances or behaviors, patterns, whatever. I mean, we understand that it's complex. There's a lot going on there, and it's their way to try to survive or to medicate, even though it's unhealthy, and it's ultimately destructive. Correct?
Right.
And so one of my thoughts was about this half-heartedness is, well, like you said, maybe I can't do it for my kids and I feel bad about that. And I think one of the reasons why is because they may be using that system for, they think, for their survival. It's the way that they're surviving, even though it's killing them. So, so they're afraid that they can't do it, and that's yeah, they're afraid they can't do it, and oftentimes we resist even trying if we don't believe that we can, and
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And that's kind of was some of my thoughts, if that was coherent enough.
Yeah, I think that there are some people that may go to a party or something and just get messed up, and then that turns into an addiction. But I really believe, I know it's not all this way, but I really believe 90-some% of it is self-medicating. Even if you are going to a party to relax or escape, what are you relaxing or escaping from? And so, and you can say, oh, it's the work week, or it's the day, or whatever, but we've all got stuff we've been through, and a lot of this stuff is about surviving, and it may be the way you've always survived, and so what am I gonna do without it, or who am I gonna be without it, and you may have already be convinced that you're gonna fail, so why start? Or this is a big one that I don't think we give enough credit to or talk about enough in recovery, because it makes us feel immature. But it amazes me how many people that I meet that are told by the people they love that they can't do it. And maybe they weren't told that they can't get recovery, but when they were younger, they were told that they couldn't achieve something they were going for, like they couldn't get good grades, or they couldn't get the pretty girl or the handsome guy, or they couldn't get the job they wanted, or they were told by their parents or a loved one or someone they looked up to that they weren't enough in some way. And that translates into, well, this is hard to do, so you can't do it, or when you start adding in, mental health symptoms and things like that, or any kind of a disability, or someone that thinks that they are personally deficient in some way, right? Which, these things are not, I have learning disabilities myself. And like one of my disabilities is I have attention deficit disorder. So I'm told. And I heard somebody say one time, it's not a deficit, it's just attention different disorder. And the truth is, these things are not deficiencies, they're just differences, how we're different than other people, because everybody's got something. The truth is, everybody's got something, and so you're not damaged property. There's nothing really wrong with you. you're just different in this way. I'm different in my way, um, and so we do things to self-medicate, and so, or we don't, or we're defeated before we start. We tell ourselves that we can't do it because somebody else that we trusted told us we couldn't do something else we were trying to do. And so part of recovery is going back and tearing down all those false beliefs. That's part of recovery, and igniting that hope again. Um,
I have a fellow.
did-
I have a fellow on sent me that's viewing what's going on here, Dave. One of the things David said was, he termed it as lying to yourself, and then he said that he lied to himself for 20 years, saying tomorrow will be better, and that may be very well true. That because the reason why we lie to ourselves oftentimes is because we are afraid. We don't think we can do it. We don't believe. My view of what I know is narrow, and what I know is what I've been stuck in most of my life. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so, and that's the reason why it's so important to be connected to other healthy individuals. If you're trying to get your recovery in a dope house, the possibilities are probably, shall we say, small,
Yeah.
and so, we need to let that truth in, that we can make it. But the false belief that saying that we can go from 0 to 100 in one fell swoop is hard. But when you have that desire for change, it came from somewhere, and it didn't come from an enemy, right?
Right.
And so God is on your side trying to help you, and so that's what those are some of my thoughts there, Zach, and I'm going to throw it back to you and let you go to your next question or whatever else you want.
Okay. Well, I've talked a lot, and I feel like I'm supposed to share a little bit of a story here because it keeps kind of coming to me, and so I don't know if it's for somebody watching or what, but I used to have another job. It was a labor job, and I'm not going to tell his name because I haven't asked him permission. I'm going to call him Billy, and I ran a crew on this labor job basically, and if you made it to my crew, you were usually very difficult, and I was the last stop out the door, because if you couldn't make it on my crew, because then you couldn't make it, because I worked with people, and so this guy had made it through some of the crews, and they kicked him off. I'm trying to make this story really fast, and this individual.
Just take your time.
Okay. This individual had some developmental disabilities. I mean, it was legitimate. I mean, he even had a little bit of Down syndrome. I mean, and the truth is one of the best guys I ever met in my life, still is. I'm still friends with him today. But his story, and they had been really trying to fire this guy, and he had been really trying to get this job, and he was so happy that he got his shot at this job, but he didn't work. He didn't work. And it's not because he couldn't work. It's because he was told that he couldn't do anything his whole entire life. And so I would kind of talk to him. I said, hey, you gotta work. You're able, you gotta work. And he would just keep telling me he couldn't, he hated me. He didn't like me. He wouldn't even ride in the front seat with me. He would ride in the back. He hated my guts, And one day he was really mad. And one day I said, because I don't lie to people, one day I said, look, I said, it doesn't matter what anybody's told you your whole entire life. And I know you got some struggles. I said, but it doesn't mean that you can't overcome those struggles and have whatever you want. I said, because you and I both know you can do more than you're doing. So you got to decide what you want. And I said, and I'm not threatening you, but I'm just telling you the truth. They're coming today They're on their way to get you and they're going to fire you. And I said, but I don't want that to happen to you because you don't deserve it, because I know that you can do it, you know? And he was yelling at me and he was mad and he was throwing stuff. And so, you know, we jumped on the same project, and we were clearing the fence row, and he was so mad at me, boy. He was outworking me, you know. And the bosses showed up and they called me up and they got mad at me, you know, because they couldn't fire him because he was working. He was outworking everybody, you know. And I said, well, I don't know what you want to do. I said, he's working. I said, if you want to let him go, let him go. I said, but I wouldn't let him go, and he can stay on my crew. I mean, I'll keep him. He's outworking everybody. And so they left in a huff, you know, and in the day, he was still mad at me, but he said, you know, I realized I could do it. And that's the thing that's so sad, is that sometimes people think they're protecting us because they tell us that we can't do anything because they watch us try and we fail. And I had some of that too a little bit when I was younger. They watch us try and fail, and they don't want to see us hurt because it hurts them to see us hurt. And they don't mean to do us a disservice, but they tell us we can't do something. But that's not reality. You know, and I may not be able to do something somebody else can do, but that doesn't mean that I can't do all I want to do if I want to try. And so, long story short, you know, I haven't been at that job for over 5 years now, and but this man has. This man even got hired full time, and has ran his own crew. And he even called me the other day and was talking to me, and great guy. But you know, we have to stop, whether someone's told us that we can't do something or we feel like we failed at everything we touch. Because there was a time in my life I felt like everything I touched just went to hell in a handbag. It just didn't work out. And we have to, you know, something that you say, Doug, that I think is, you know, missed sometimes because it sounds so simple. It's, what do you want? You know, and what do you want? You know, and why can't you have what you want? Because if you're willing to do the work to have what you want, it doesn't matter what anybody says to you. It doesn't matter how many credentials are behind their name. It doesn't matter how smart they are or what position they have or how much we respect them. It doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't matter how many times you tried to get sober. It doesn't matter if you were sober and relapsed. For a long time you were sober and you relapsed. It doesn't matter. If you take a breath, give yourself a minute and ask yourself what you want, and you just make the next healthy choice to get what you want, and then the next healthy choice after that to get what you want. And then, you know, setbacks are going to happen. Life is going to happen, and you don't give up. And if you mess up, you get back up. You know, and you don't kick the crap out of yourself when you mess up. That's the key thing, because I think that's the biggest reason why we relapse so many times, and why it takes us so long to have long-term sobriety, is because we beat ourselves up so profusely for relapsing that we just keep having a bunch of relapses one after another. I know myself, if I didn't kick the crap out of myself so much for all my mistakes, I wouldn't have repeated those mistakes so many times. And so, you know, you don't let anybody tell you that you can't do anything. I mean, they don't decide. You decide. You decide what you can do and can't do. And, you know, like this question 4 says, where do I I'll shorten this now because I've talked way too long. Where do I lose heart in fighting, training, and working through the 12 steps? And step 3 is about applying the 12 steps, and step 2 is talking about, it's, training like an athlete. That's daily. Step 2 is it's your daily work in your recovery. And then this step 4, where do I lose heart? And I think that goes back into when we're holding on to some stuff, when we're and disclaimer, nobody sacrifices everything all at one time, even if you think you are, because I thought I was just giving everything to Jesus, and thank God he didn't tell me all the stuff I had, because I probably would have just lost it, because he gently showed me later, well, there's some more stuff we got to work on that you need to sacrifice, because but so the disclaimer is that nobody gives him everything all at one time. Okay. But he'll take what you can give him right now. And he'll work on that with you. And that counts. And if you this question made me think, if you feel like you're losing heart in fighting or training or working through your steps, I would ask, if that was me, I would ask myself, am I holding on to some allowances in my life, or do I have some reservations out here? Because that's something else we do. We allow ourselves things like, and I'm not, I'm gonna step on some toes here. Now I believe in harm reduction, so don't take this the wrong way. Like somebody asked me the other day, if someone's doing meth and they trade meth for marijuana, is that a healthy choice? And I said, hell yeah, let's take the marijuana over the meth any day of the week. Let's do that. Okay. For me, recovery is, I had to quit it all. I couldn't quit, the substances and keep drinking alcohol. For me, I couldn't do any of it because I had to do all of it. I couldn't do any of it. Now, some people, they give up one and keep another, and that works for them. And so I'm not hating on that, but I can't make allowances. I can't give up meth or alcohol and keep marijuana, or I can't do that, because it drags me back over into other stuff, and you hear people talk about, well, I'm going to do this, it's not my drug of choice, and it's healthier than the other. And I'm not arguing, maybe it is healthier, but if you're struggling, I would ask you to check in with yourself about your allowances. What are you allowing in your life? And get real with yourself. I mean, that's the other thing about that question 4 is, get real with yourself. I talk a lot about, don't get a sponsor that co-signs your bullshit, because that's not a good sponsor, but we do a lot of that ourselves. We co-sign a lot of our own BS, and everybody does it, but sometimes we have to get real. We have to get real with ourselves and not lie to ourselves. And, and that doesn't even mean that you're going to fix it all. It doesn't even mean that you're going to change it all and go the right direction. But at least getting real with yourself and being completely honest, at least you know where you're at, and that's a start. And from that position, you can become willing. You can work on becoming willing to work on some of that stuff. So that was kind of scattered tonight, but that's what I got. So, and I guess unless you have anything, Doug, we'll move forward.
Thanks, Zach. Does anybody else have anything? evident. Go ahead, Zach.
So, all right, so that was a step, and we're going to move on to the reflection. And so please welcome Debbie.
Okay, Zach, that was very good, except for you. Took about just exact same format that I was going to take. Thank you so much, sir. But again, step 10 is we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. And
That's hard to do.
oh yes, very hard to do.
You have
A
to
lot of
recognize you
time-
have a problem before you can admit to it. That's the, that's the whole thing. A lot of people don't think that there's anything wrong with them, but you have to admit that what you're doing is wrong, before you can forgive yourself. But a lot of people will not stop and look at what they're doing is wrong. You know what I mean? Like they think it's okay. Like they don't see a problem with it.
Right, and I think that's where we go through that. If you have an injury or a cut, you have to admit that you have that cut before you can heal it in the
Right.
first place or treat it. And
Right.
or like Dr. Phil's quote was in the same instance was that oh, I forget now, but sorry, but it goes on the same thing. You cannot heal a wound if you don't admit you have it. And so, yeah, that's why going through the steps is so important, because one step takes you into another step. And all of the steps, when you go through them, that you will end up thinking about yourself and where you have to correct, of what problems you have and what you need to correct. And I know a lot of times on mine, especially on that first question that Zach had was, how do I see my recovery as a war against my addiction and as a fight for my soul? Well, first off, going with the anger, Zach, because that is the number one, I think that a lot of us, that we have anger, and it's admitting that anger is even there for whatever reason. And I know with me, a lot of times, and one of my last addictions, well, I've laid it down many, many times, but my cigarette smoking. And I would tell my counselor a lot of times at first, I actually told him at first, he was so happy when I told him, I said, well, what excuse do you want me to come up with? My favorite excuse was, you don't realize I'm smoking this cigarette to save your life. And so it was all blamed on him, and it had nothing to do really with my reaction to it or for whatever. And it's the same thing as when somebody would make me upset and I would lose my temper, and I could get very angry. Also, somebody can't make you choose to lose your temper. They can't make you, if you sit back there and you actually realize and you take time to breathe and understand steps that you are going through in getting upset. And it's promptly admitting it, when you lose your temper or whatever it is, but to be able to just say, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little hot under this collar. I have to go to the other, which is fine to excuse yourself to the other room, as long as you don't stay there and hide from it. And, come back and to just apologize sometimes for losing your temper, because one person in a household can't change without another one changing. And you may find out just why that your chain was being pulled there. But step 3 here of am I working in every season and situation, planting seeds of recovery by applying the 12 steps to my life. I think it's just working the 12 steps and working them over and over, because no, you don't do it once. You put those steps into order, and sometimes you could be months on one step even trying to get through it. And it just matters. And even sometimes on your second or third time through, there's always one. It's like I tell my friends, the hardest one actually I have is step 1. And I says, every day I have to go back to step 1 and just admit I have no control in letting go. And the 4th question here under perseverance is, where do I lose heart in the fight, training, and working through the 12 steps? And it is just working them. You have to continuously find time to be able to sit down and go through them, to really reflect on yourself, because it's so much easier to blame somebody else for why you're going through something instead of just sitting back and looking. That may have been okay, and maybe you didn't deserve whatever it was when you were a child. But as we tend to mature, we have to stop and reflect on ourselves to see why things bother us so bad. So really, that's all I have for tonight.
Before you jump off there,
I knew you were going to do that.
that 4th question, I see it, well, the way I read it is, where do I lose heart? Is it in the fighting? Is it in the training? Is it in the working? And those are 3 different elements that they're talking about here. And I think that's kind of a question, you know, which one of these 3s am I losing heart in, or I need some help on? What do you think about that, Debbie?
Well, I think it's on when you're taking your inventory down and just being able to reflect on yourself. Yes, is it in the fight? You know, it's a fight every day, especially that I went through so much depression, but to get up out of that bed and just carry on, putting one foot in front of the other, which would go into working then if you're up and you put that one foot in front of the other. So it's a struggle to get through and do it, but you have to keep in it and do it.
I think that's why they call this lesson perseverance, right?
Right.
Back to you, Zach.
Yeah, back to you,
All
Zach.
right. Thank you, Debbie. That was really good. I had a thought real quick, and I know we're running late on time. You know, anger, you know, we talk a lot about anger, but it's amazing how many times I work with people on anger a lot, and it's amazing how many people I meet that are never asked the question, why are you angry? They're always kind of attacked because they are angry. You know, like, what's wrong with you for being angry? Or, you know, why are you angry all the time? Or it's like it's a character defect or a flaw. Like they just have a problem with being angry. And the truth is most folks, if they're angry, they have a very legitimate reason for being angry. and you know, and so the quickest way to diffuse that anger is to let somebody, you know, tell you why they're mad, you know, and because oftentimes no one's gave them the chance to no one's even wanted to hear what happened to them that made them angry, even if it's ridiculous, you know. And if it is, they usually hear themselves say it and they usually catch that themselves. But it's just amazing how, I mean, you know, God made anger. It made, you know, you're angry for a reason, you know. And so I just think that's, you know, that's just something I just wanted to pass along. So if you're mad, you're probably mad for a reason. So I hope you find somebody to let you tell them why. So, without further ado, please welcome Doug.
Woo!
All right. Hang on a second. I'm sorry about this. This is Doug Wilkerson. There you go. There you go. All right. Trying to manipulate multiple things going on here and trying to help best we can, if you know what I mean. So, well, before I get into my stuff, I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to share anything. And Bobby, do you have anything that you want to share about tonight and what's going on here up to this point?
Not at the moment.
All right, Bobby, we're glad you're with us. And
Thank you.
Lisa, do you have anything that you would like to share, comment on up to this point?
Yeah, I think I guess the only thing I really want to say is you had asked the question of Debbie about which one was it, the fight, you know, or the work and the steps and that question there. And I think for me, I've worked the steps many times. You know, when I get to 12, I start back over because there's always something to be working on. At least I found in my journey. So I keep working them because that keeps my recovery going. But I find that each time that I work it, it's a different thing that I struggle with. Sometimes it's the fight. Sometimes it's the work and the step that's difficult. Sometimes, you know, like Debbie said, sometimes it's that step one, just admitting that, okay, well, this is what I'm going to have to work on now. We maybe, you know, like Zach was saying, maybe we're not ready to give that up, you know. So sometimes it is just that admitting what it is. And sometimes it's the fight to, yes, I want to give it up, but it's got a hold of me. And then other times it's the actual just working in the steps and facing them. So I would like to say that, you know, hang in there, keep going, you know, find somebody who's done the steps before if you're struggling with one of those areas, because that's where sponsorship comes in, because that's a really good way to get through those when you're struggling, because there's probably somebody else who's struggled with that same thing too. So, you know, talk to others who are working those steps, because we've probably been there. We've probably understand how you're feeling in that moment, and if you just keep going, it'll be worth it. So that's kind of all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. And let's see, I was going to ask John, but John is gone. Or at least I don't see him. Oh, yeah.
Hi, John.
Well, John is gone. So, John, did you have anything you wanted to add to the conversation up to this point?
Nothing right now, no.
All right. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And all right, then we'll go forward. How about that?
Okay, Doug, I did remember that quote from Dr. Phil. Actually, his way of putting it is, you cannot change what you won't acknowledge.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I like that.
Dr. Phil's still in your stuff, Doug. Look at that.
I know. No, actually, before I ever met Doug, actually, I went to, he used to do, Dr. Phil used to do a program in this area. It was based off of his training, and it was called Grace Adventures. And it was like a 3-month long period of things that I had gone to several years ago, like 20 years ago. And that was one of his sayings there.
Well, say it again, Debbie.
Yeah, you cannot change what you do not acknowledge.
That's good. That's good.
But I like yours because you actually had it come out of the Bible, which I'm sure they could have, but nobody knew that. Do you remember
Okay.
the Bible verse?
Jeremiah 6:14, I believe it is. And out of the Living Bible translation, the original Living Bible translation. And so, best I remember. So, all right. Let's see if we can, we're getting close on time, but it's been good. Tonight has been on perseverance, and my title that I gave this topic that Zach picked out of our Life Recovery Bible and Workbook was perseverance, and I entitled it "Perseverance is Often the Predictor of Achievement." And I got that out from an author and a speaker, Angela Duckworth. If any of you've heard that name, she's written a book called Grit, which talks about that's the measure of what helps people to achieve the amount of grit that they have, which is perseverance. And the title or the definition of perseverance out of the dictionary says perseverance is doing something despite a difficulty or delay in achieving success. That means that you go ahead and you keep doing that. And that definition will tie into those questions that both Zach and Debbie were speaking about out of our Life Recovery Workbook. And so, but I'm going to read a scripture out of James 1:12. And this is out of the ESV version. It says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast or perseverant under trial." Okay. "For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." He's promised us that reward, that honor, that glory, that crown, that symbol of the crown. Life is our present life. I looked this up in the Greek, by the way. Our present life, and also our spiritual life and future spiritual life. And so you have to be persistent. And that means basically you can't give up, you can't quit. If you quit, what do you quit to? Okay, you just give in to being nihilistic, hopeless, helpless. There's nothing there. I'm just going to suffer till I die. You say, "Well, I've been suffering up to this point." Yeah, it's hard. And at the same time, we're talking to people that have worked hard and tried to overcome, and they feel like that they've done everything they can do. And that may be the case, but then again, I have said that same thing. But as Zach said earlier, we held back some stuff. We held on to some stuff. We hid some stuff. How many times do we lie to ourselves, consciously or unconsciously? Does that make sense? And so oftentimes as that half-heartedness that Zach was talking about earlier. We really, maybe we don't really realize we're half-hearted because we're afraid. We don't think we can make it. How many people have I talked to that said the only way I can survive is if I do X, Y, and Z, which I know is killing me, right? And so I need to, it would be in my best interest to, but I've always lived this way and this is all I know. How can this is really one of the points here, is how can I believe that it's doable for me? Isn't that the truth? How can I believe? And crossing that bridge is so hard because we're having to really do it on faith. And the way I'm going to say to do that today is you do it one step at a time. You test it out. Kind of like the way that I've told people in the past, it's kind of like how you figure out how to walk across a frozen stream or a body of water. You just don't jump out in the middle of it and see if it'll hold you up. You test it first. You take one small step. And you don't do it quickly, you do it slowly. You do it one little step at a time or a half a step at a time. You get some evidence to say, this is working right here, okay? Maybe I can't let go of everything, but I can take 1 foot off the bank and put it on the ice. And then maybe you can take another foot off the bank and get it on the ice. Ice being our recovery. Because it has you captive. Your fear, your belief, your story, your addiction, your behaviors, your thinking hold you. And one of the things that Dave said on the message he sent me is that we have to be transformed. And the way you do that is by changing your evidence, your belief about your story, your thoughts, and coming to the place that you realize you've been imprisoned by lies that you have voluntarily adopted. And I know that's strong words. And so what we have to do is we have to start that process little by little. And Zach says this a lot, and many others say this, that progress is progress, okay? And any small step means you're healthier than you were. I tell people often, on the continuum of choice, whatever you do, just choose a little healthier choice, okay? As healthy as you can. Even if you're way down here on the negative side of that choices of health, truth, just choose as much as you can to start moving that direction. You say, well, I'm still locked into all this stuff. I'm still doing X, Y, and Z. Well, start doing some healthy stuff. That's what recovery is about. Start planning some healthy things in your life. That's the hard work of the farmer that those questions we're talking about. Okay. And so I kind of got drug off into that scripture and that, but perseverance refers to the ability to pursue a goal or a passion over time and stick with it. Stick with it if we encounter objects or setbacks. This next part I really like. It's where I got some of the title today. And this is from Angela Duckworth. It often tops aptitude and raw talent, and is a more accurate predictor of achievement. Okay, that means your persistence, you're willing to stay in it, you know, just hang on. You know, you don't have your progress and your achievement is not contingent on your aptitude, how smart you are. Okay, it's not contingent on raw talent, because we all know people that have all kinds of talent, and that talent wrecks them. Okay, right? So it can be a blessing, but it also can be a heavy thing. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to negate intelligence or talent. I wish I had some. Okay, both. And so our ability to stick to the task, to finish her quote, her tasks and goals and passions is vital. We have to stay in that process, and if we do that, then we're able to achieve. And that's Angela Duckworth and her grit that she talks about. And I lost my phone stuff, so we'll just not worry about that. And so recovery, this is right out of the book. Recovery is a lifelong process. You know, we think that stuff is it's one and done. Okay, I did the step one time, I'm done with step one. You're done with step one until the next time you do it, which is not that far away, because we don't get it all in one shot. Okay, I'm still learning from them, and I've been doing them for over 20 some years, probably closer to 25 years, maybe even more. And I learn more every time I go through them. And I go through the book. I go through our book that we have, Life Recovery Workbook, and I've gone through other information, and it's all beneficial to help me transform my heart, my spirit, my thinking. Okay, because reality is you can't change your life until you change your thinking. You have to change your choices to change your life. I try to say that every week if possible. Hopefully that's okay with you guys. And so recovery is a lifelong process, and oftentimes we do get weary because of the pain, because of the fear, because of all the emotion that's going on. I know we all have a friend that participates with us, and she's has been struggling for all of her life. Her family started her on drugs when she was 5 years old, and it, you know, and it doesn't stop at one thing. Things attach and accumulate, right? And so, but we just keep encouraging, keep believing, keep helping, keep reaching out, and yes, setting healthy boundaries. Yes, there's some boundaries, but you can have healthy boundaries and continue to love and continue to encourage, because encouragement is guidance, and we need to love and guide. That's where the real help is. Okay, some systems just like to direct and dictate and order and then punish if you don't live up to the dictates. How about that? Or the dogma. I need to get off that, because that's a slippery slope that we can slide down real easy, right?
Yep.
We may get discouraged, but what we have to do is we have to be willing to stay in there. And, you know, as it's always been said, it's always darkest before the dawn. It's the last thing here the hardest challenge is always the last challenge, right? But we don't know which challenge that is. Okay. And we have to hang on. I've had challenges that I didn't see how it was going to work. And I thought that I had turned it over to God. But when I finally come to the place that I was at my end of myself, that's when I said, okay, God, I've done all I can do. I played all my cards. I'm cashed out. The powers have positioned themselves around me to take me down. It looks like I'm going to die, figuratively, definitely figuratively. And that's when he said, you know, that what I need to do is trust him. And I figured, I said, okay, I'm trusting you. And we don't know, we can't see some of these things because it's hidden. We've hidden them from ourselves. And when I said, okay, I'm going to trust you, because there was nothing else that I could do. And that's when things started appearing that there was no way that it wasn't there before. And then things started happening. And I know that sounds mystical, and it really kind of was. But you know, I in a similar situation with the same situation, some people took me to court, and they were, you know, I used to think that reasonable people could work things out reasonably, but I've learned that sometimes that's not so. And these people I thought were supposed to be reasonable, or they were reasonable with their particular perspective, which was not reasonable from my perspective. And I was in court, and I literally saw the judge shift by the help of I believe, the Holy Spirit. And that was my only hope, okay? Because the powers to be had the deck, looked like to me, stacked against me. Didn't mean I was wrong. It just means it was the way it was. And that's when we all have these situations. We have to have the intervention. And sometimes we just truly have to be willing to be persistent and do what one of the scripture says, and stand therefore. And I was willing to stand and deal with it. I'm going to jump into what Apostle Paul was talking about. But before I do that, does anybody have anything to say?
Well, yes. Then this morning, actually, we were talking when I was at one of the other recovery meetings, but we were talking about miracles. One of the girls had faith in healing and stuff. And one of the girls was very upset, and she was talking about just that, you know, she was looking for the big miracle, that bang, it was supposed to be, you know, she was supposed to be over her addictions, you know, just like that. And she was looking for, you know, the kids and stuff. But this guy came up with something that really made a lot of sense. And he says, you know, we're always looking for that great big miracle, for the mountain to be moved, which God will move mountains. And we're all looking for that mountain to be moved. Well, he is moving that mountain inch by inch, and it is proven in science that that mountain is moving. Mm-hmm. It's just that we're not seeing it. So it's how we look at it.
That's good. It's good. Anybody else? Any comments?
Yeah, I think I think sometimes when we want God just to do it for us, you know, I've had God take things from me, and it was too easy for me, and I went right back into it, and then I had to have it the hard way so that I wouldn't live so dangerously, you know. So and I know people that have had the same thing, you know,
Yes.
where and I don't, you know, and so I think that, you know, I think sometimes God will do that. I think sometimes God will just deliver you, and but if you don't catch it or value it or you know, appreciate it or not put yourself at risk, then he won't risk you again. You know, he'll make it, you know, it's not, he's not doing it to you, you're doing it to yourself really, but he, you know, it's almost like if you have to earn it, it costs you something, and it's more precious to you, and you won't I'm going to turn this around on me because it sounds so harsh coming out of my mouth. He gave it to me easy, and it didn't mean nothing to me, and so I had to earn it, and it had to cost me something. I had to pay for it, so I wouldn't throw it away the next time. And he did that for my good, not to be hard on me. And he didn't do that to me. I did that to myself.
Yes.
And you know, it's, you know, it's like something that you know, Doug taught me early on. Like the chick and the egg, if you break the shell, there's a chick trying to break itself out of the egg, and it's struggling, and you're afraid it's going to die. If you help it, it will die for sure, because it builds its strength by breaking out of its shell. That's how it builds that strength to survive in the elements in the world. And if you rob it of its struggle, it dies. And you know, God loves us enough, he's not going to rob us of our struggle, so that we can live, we can survive. And I didn't like that when I heard that, but it's the truth. And so, you know.
That's good, Zach. Thank you, Zach. Anybody else? Okay. I'll see if I can pare some of this down. The scripture that they were sharing here with us was 2 Timothy 2:1-8, and it was about perseverance. And they were talking about Apostle Paul used 3 illustrations to give us an idea or to depict perseverance. And he used the good soldier, which he said endure suffering like a good soldier. So you had the good soldier picture, but what a good soldier does is they endure suffering. Okay, and then the next, the second picture is the athlete. He says, train like the athlete and follow the rules. Okay. And so what we have to do is that we understand the athlete, you know, he had to, he did suffer too. The athlete suffered, okay, because of the work and the effort, okay. And he had to train, he had to work to be able to be a proficient athlete. And of course he had to follow the rules. Well, the good soldier had to follow the rules too. You're going to get the idea that it all applies. It all fits together. Okay. The next one was the farmer. Okay. The third picture was the farmer, and these were pictures they had in the in that Bible time, and so that they understood it. But the picture, the picture is the farmer, and the farmer had to work hard, okay, and because farming is hard work, but so is training for as an athlete, right? It's just different, but it's hard. So you have to endure things. The soldier has to endure suffering and work hard and follow the rules, and the farmer has to work hard, and he has to work in all the seasons, and he has to work in the right season, okay, the right work in the right season, and if he does all that, then he will produce growth, okay, and the good soldier produces something, the athlete produces something, and also the farmer produces something, and without perseverance, you won't have the production, or you won't have recovery. Does that make sense? Is that too much? And he goes on to say that like a good soldier going to war, he has to go to war so that he can win. Okay, he has to be willing to fight and fight to the end. And so the recovery is a lifelong process. Like I've already said, we fight until the end. You remind me of something, Zach, when you were talking about it. I was talking with a guy one time. Actually, we were having lunch, and we were talking about somebody else, and he said he was talking about this other fella, and he said, yeah, I was trying to help him, and he'd been clean for a good long time off meth, and several years, and he was trying to help this other fella get off meth, and so he decided the way he was going to do it was he was going to do more meth than the other fella to show him, okay, that. I'm not really for sure what he was showing him. He was just going to do more meth than him and prove to him that he could get off, I guess, was the object. And this guy that was clean now put himself back in that system because he thought that he could just turn it off anytime he wanted. It was not that easy. You want something, Zach?
That's lying to yourself.
Yes.
That goes back to lying to yourself. I mean, that's when you start to think that when you start to think that you could, like if I think I can have one drink, or I think I could do that and I don't have a problem, I'm in dangerous territory. That's the biggest. It doesn't matter if it's 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, really, it doesn't matter. You start thinking that you can use anything just a little bit and be okay. There's a problem, and I know, and I have a friend that he used to be an alcoholic, and he thinks he's in recovery, and because now he thinks he can drink when he wants and doesn't drink when he doesn't want to, but he still drinks. He just doesn't drink as much as he used to. And so now he's cured, he's okay, and it's, it's little by little, it's seldom, just we dive in the pit, it's a slow fade, and we lie to ourselves a lot, and you start thinking you're good. That's a problem. If someone tells you you're good, that's a problem. So.
Yes, and I really felt like the fellow I was talking about was he didn't really value his precious gift like you were talking about earlier, and yeah, he did do more dope than the other guy. Okay, that was his plan, and you're going to get what you focus on, right? And so And the rest of the story is, to my knowledge, even though he no longer lives around here, that I believe that he did finally get back into recovery and got things squared around, which I'm very grateful for, because he's very talented and he's a very good guy. But we talk about, like the soldier, you have to fight till the end. That's perseverance. We talk about the athlete, he has to train and he has to live a certain way, function a certain way, to be able to do what he wants to do. Does that sound anything like recovery? And so, and to do that, we have to follow those rules and those steps and live in recovery. And that way we'll go across that finish line. That's persistence. Okay. All right. And that farmer, he must work hard. He has to work hard every season. Okay. He can't lay out. There's things he has to do. Some people try to overwork things, and they want to plow the field 4 or 5 times. And the fact of it is, you need to do that. That's healthy. You plow the field, plant, you follow the process, and just working hard. Okay. Even though we've been talking about persistence, there's a place that you can believe that I will just work so hard that I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to transform myself. Let's just take it from Doug. My belief, my perspective is, our recovery, as we already said, is a gift, and that we didn't do it. We just positioned ourselves in the right place to be able to receive it. And we are the caretakers of that, and allow that to grow, to be the good stewards of those things that have been given to us. And so you can't force yourself. You can enable yourself, you can help yourself, but you can't force yourself. And so persistence is important, okay? And again, when you've done all that you can, when you've done all you can do, stand therefore, and that's where God does his work in our life. And you don't even have to believe in God for that to take place. You just have to be open to your higher power, or to whatever, but you just come to that place that you are willing to receive that serenity to be transformed. And that's the grace that the 12 steps and the Bill W. talks about in the Alcoholics Anonymous literature, because none of us, as Bill said, can do it without that grace. At least that's the way I understand it. And so you have the farmer working, and so we have to be willing to work. We have to be willing to fight. We have to be willing to train. We have to be willing to put ourselves in that position. And it's kind of like planting the crop like a farmer. We do what we're able to do. We have to do that, and then God brings the increase. What do you think about that? Can you let God touch your life? Help you to come into that? Must you control everything? Or is that control thing the reason why you're in place that you're in? Just a question. So I think I will pause there and probably conclude my notes since we're way over time. And anybody have any thoughts before I wrap up my end? Any thoughts? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank everybody for participating. Hopefully that we were able to share some things that resonated in you, because all we want to do is to help. All we want to do is to add value to your life and to see you get better. And I know I hear from people from time to time. Many of you don't respond on the maybe send us a message or a note, but from time to time in crossing people's path, they say that they're listening. There's a fella that somewhere in Oklahoma sent me a message, and he didn't get back with me, and I would like to get him on here. And others that are watching this, if you're interested in participating in our Zoom meeting that goes out on Facebook and YouTube, we'd like to give you an invitation. We may not be able to take everybody, and of course you have to follow the rules if you get on here. Okay, and that is you can't talk when somebody else is talking, right? That's one of the things. And then of course it needs to line up with what we're trying to do. So, but anyway, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And please make healthy choices. And we're going to go back to Mr. Zach.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and we hope you enjoyed it tonight. I thought we had a good meeting, and we, like I said earlier tonight, we won't be here for the next 2 weeks, but we will be back on November 7th. I believe that's the right date. And so 3 Saturdays from now, we'll be back. There will be a meeting playing the next 2 weeks, but it won't be live, but there will be a meeting playing. So, but we just encourage you guys to stay safe, and we love you all, and hope to see you on November 7th. So thanks for being here with us tonight.